everyone, it is another week of, I don't know what the name of this. What, Bruce Perky, what is the name of our podcast?
Find your celluloid trash fire.
Find your celluloid trash fire. Eric Holmes, what is your vote? What is the name of the podcast?
I thought it was a flame, rebel, flame, dumpster, film, flame.
Flame Rebel Fire. I've been listening to our episodes because I QC them. I think it was Flame Rebel Fire, Eric Holmes.
Film rebel fire.
You corrected me.
Yeah.
You have a tendency of correcting me. And you know what? That's fine because you are always correct. So again, Film Rebel Flame.
Yes.
Yes. Well, we are fine.
Yes. Don't know. I'm confused now. That's not hard to
too.
do.
But listeners, hopefully you are not confused. We are. I'm going to edit this. Find your film, Bruce Perky, Eric Holmes, and me, Greg Srzavasti. I'm looking here on the YouTube thing. I didn't put anything really interesting for our names. Eric Holmes is Eric Holmes, and Bruce is just Bruce. But now here's the thing. We started off with Find Your Film. We've done 2 episodes right now, and we spotlighted the director, William Friedkin. Now, we used to do another podcast, FYI 411, called Movie Mainline, where we would actually do weekly movie recommendations. Now, things have changed. We are going to transpose and just mix in this whole cinematic gumbo pot. We're going to do weekly movie recommendations here on Find Your Film. So every week, you will have at least maybe 8 to 12 movies to pick from among us 3. And then also every other week, we will be spotlighting filmmakers we know and love. So the first 2 episodes, again, we spotlighted William Friedkin. Next week, Bruce Perky's pick is what? Bruce Perky, who are we spotlighting next week?
We have one film from Mario Bava and one from Dario Argento.
Yes, what is the name of the Bava film? The Argento is Suspiria. What is the Bava one again? Blonde, what?
Blood and Black Lace.
Blood and Black Lace and Suspiria. And Eric Holmes is smiling. You guys on audio can't hear it. You are smiling because you love both of those movies. Spoiler alert. Is that true?
Well, I'm not going to show it on the video, but I'm wearing a certain something under my pants, so...
That's very visual, and I'm glad we are a E, not for everyone rating. We are E for explicit on our podcast, so it's good to know. But you know what? We are explicitly into the show because we're going to give a lot of. You like those transitions, my wordy transitions. We're going to give.
I don't like those transitions. I love those.
Oh, thank you so much, sir. Before we start into our movie recommendations this week, Bruce, Eric, do you have anything to say before we launch into our first movie recommendation, which all 3 of us have already seen?
This may be the first episode where the video feed on my square at some point might have to be blacked out.
Oh no, Bruce, the king of teasers. Okay, Eric Holmes, anything you want to say before we get started with the movie that we're going to spotlight this week before we launch into a whole bunch of recommendations? Eric Holmes.
Yeah. Well, yes, Greg. Thanks for asking. You too, Bruce. I'm glad to have you both here. And you, listener, I would like to say thank you for listening. Now enjoy the show.
Now enjoy the and very quick shout out to Greg Dixon. He was actually wondering about what we're doing, about how we don't have a Movie Mainline Instagram page. And I told him the new thing is we'll Find Your Film now. We're gonna actually share a lot of our stuff on social media. We're gonna be out and about. At least I will be, because you guys have full-time jobs.
Instagram.
You got to figure out what Instagram is. I do too. I don't even know what TikTok is. Bruce, do you ever use?
Kids get off my lawn.
Kids get off my lawn. Yeah. Hey, Bruce, have you ever used TikTok? Have you ever done that?
I do not TikTok. No.
You do not.
But I have an Instagram account which I rarely ever go to. But
you rarely ever go.
It is there.
One of these days, folks, here's the thing. Full disclosure before we get into our movie. By the way, our movie is A Tax Collector. Before we get into that, we're all old men, and hopefully this podcast will make us younger. And by the end of this whole journey, we're going to be kings, the kings of social media. Eric Holmes, correct?
No? Oh, yeah, 100%.
That sounded convincing.
We're going to be the emperors of social media. We're going to social all the media. We will make it completely social to everyone.
Very, 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 very good. Life is a full circle. That is really cool. Now, The Tax Collector, written and directed by David Ayer. David Ayer, we know him as the screenwriter behind Training Day. He directed Harsh Times, Fury, Bright, which I haven't seen yet, Suicide Squad,
End of
Bruce,
Watch,
End of Watch, yes.
which is actually very apropos to what we're about to talk about.
Oh, very
Actually, probably
interesting.
closer to Harsh Times, but Harsh Times and End of Watch, we'll get into it. But those two, when you think David Ayer, those two make the most sense with Tax Collector as opposed to Suicide Squad. Maybe not so much.
Maybe not so much. Bruce Perky, before we get into the tax collector, your initial thoughts of Bruce, not Bruce, I'm going to cut that out. No, I'm not going to cut that out. Your initial thoughts of David Ayer as a filmmaker regarding his body of work. What is your overall impression of what he's done so far?
Um, Up and down. There's some really, really cool, good stuff, and there's some other stuff that's kind of inexplicably not as great. I'm thinking of Bright is one of the examples. So I guess I'm kind of uneven on him.
Uneven on him.
Yeah.
I biasly like him. I've always loved this stuff. When we did that movie Street Kings, remember that movie Street Kings, I actually interviewed David Ayer one-on-one, and he had a place on Echo Park on Sunset Boulevard. Really cool guy. Yeah, just really down to earth. I love that movie. I've always loved his work. So like Brian De Palma, my favorite director, I have a blind spot to David Ayer's films. So I'm really excited to hear what you guys think of The Tax Collector. Now, very quickly, The Tax Collector comes out in theaters, on demand, and digital August 7th. It centers on two lifelong friends, David, played by Bobby Soto, and Creeper, played by Shia LaBeouf. Creeper, that sounds like a name that I would give myself, okay? I look like a creeper. But David and Creeper, they are tax collectors. They collect tax from the local gangs in South Central Los Angeles, actually all over Los Angeles. They get a cut. They give the cut to Wizard, this guy named Wizard. He's a mysterious figure who is in jail. David's uncle is Uncle Lewis, played by George Lopez. So he's sort of their, I guess, I don't know, father figure, or he's another boss who
Uncle.
helps.
I think he's his uncle.
Yeah.
Uncle, yeah, he's their uncle who actually helps them run things in a way. He's sort of their maybe consigliere or superior. So basically, David and Creeper, they in a weird way, they run Los Angeles because people have to pay their taxes. So that's ultimately the premise. David is a family man, and Creeper is a single guy. He's a man about town. What happens is when there's a rival crime lord who comes into LA trying to take over the business, things go really south for both David and his family, and of course, Creeper. So that is a very quick plot synopsis for The Tax Collector. I want to start off with Bruce Perky. I don't have the technical know-how on YouTube to blacken your frame out. So you are the light, you have good lighting. Bruce Perky, I want you to share your thoughts of this 95-minute film.
I was not feeling this movie hardly at all. It really didn't work for me. I thought that the look of the film, I did not like the cinematography or the shooting of the film at all. It moved a lot. It was always kind of roaming around. It seemed like, I don't know what it was, but the cinematography itself seemed almost TV-esque. Didn't look very cinematic to me. And the plot did not work for me. And Creeper, I'm sorry, Shia's been really on a roll lately, but I thought he was pretty cartoonish in this movie.
Did you like Shia in the David Ayer film Fury? Did you like him there on that World
I
War
never
II
saw
film?
Fury. That's one of the ones I need to catch up on. I've heard it's really great, but I never caught up on that. But like lately, he's been like on a really good roll with I forget the name, but the one he just did where he kind of plays his own dad. That one's really great.
Honey Boy?
Yeah, Honey Boy, and then he did Peanut Butter Falcon, and he's been on a lot of interesting stuff lately. But this movie, I was trying to figure out what his character was supposed to be. I mean, other than an enforcer, like the way he played him, which to me was super cartoonish, and I couldn't buy in at all.
Yeah, I ended up buying it. Again, I'm a biased fan of Ayer's work. I can see. What did you think of the violence? Do you think it was too violent as well? Do you
No.
think he could have told? Okay, so you're fine with that.
I was fine with the violence. It just wasn't. I just didn't think the story was very inspired to me. It seemed very. To me, it just seemed like a lot of tropes, and of both sides, of the family side and of the gangland side, and I wasn't sure. Like, I guess I wasn't sure. Like, who we were supposed to root for and why we were supposed to root for the people we were rooting for, because I saw nothing about them other than they kind of made these really nice, beautiful, like family scenes to try to make them seem like, okay, they're good guys. But everything they do is not good. So they're not good guys when you see them going around town. They're terrible guys. So I don't know why we're supposed to root for them and to root for them to succeed in the story we're watching. So
Bruce, you're supposed to root for the criminals with a heart of gold. And that was
they don't. What do they do? They have a heart of gold for other than their own families.
Dave,
I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. I just could not hang with this movie. I would give it a 2.
A 2-star, 2 out of 5 stars.
Yeah.
Bruce Perky would give it. I personally have been talking too much about the Tax Collector. I would give it 4 out of 5. Eric Holmes, I love these visceral driven movies. This goes back to the Painted Bird, folks. Look back at a previous episode of the now RIP movie Mainline to see what Bruce and I think about that. This is the second time you and I diverge, Bruce. Eric Holmes, your thoughts?
All right. Well, first of all, I need to mention that I am firmly in the David Ayer camp. The only movie I like, Suicide Squad's probably his worst movie. And it was fine. I didn't hate it, but like we were talking about William Freakin. And probably the ending of Sabotage. I love Sabotage up until the end, and it kind of fell off for me. Fury's awesome. Training Day is awesome. Harsh Times is awesome. End of Watch is effing awesome. If you have not seen End of Watch, oh my God, that movie's heartbreaking. But
I like that movie a lot too.
Even Bright had its fun moments. Probably lower tier David Ayer, but still pretty interesting concept. This one, this one had reminded me a lot of Blood In, Blood Out.
Okay, I've never seen that. I've heard that's great. Everyone tells me to see Blood In, Blood Out. Is that a good thing? Is that a good?
Yeah. For me it is. Apparently not for Bruce, but this is my brain's all scrambled right now. But I don't know. There's as I'm watching this movie, I didn't quite get what the point was, because as Bruce said, they're not good people, and not good things happen to them as a result. But I don't know. There's just something about it that's kind of lingering with me, and I can't quite verbalize it right now. But I did like it, and I guess first of all we can start off with George Lopez.
He's good,
dude. He wasn't good. He wasn't good. He was great.
No, I agree. I loved him in this.
George Lopez was great. Shia LaBeouf, he's awesome in everything. He was great in this. One thing that was distracting to me a little bit, and this isn't on the movie, this is just on Shia LaBeouf's, the way he acts.
Sure.
He had the cauliflower ear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I could not tell if that's makeup or if he gave himself cauliflower ear because he's that much of a method actor.
Yeah.
Either one would surprise me.
I think he lost a tooth or something for Fury. He literally lost.
Didn't he do like a full chest tattoo for this movie that you can't even see?
Yeah, but I mean,
all?
dude, you can get fake. You can get tattoos. They're fine.
But I mean, he got one specifically, I think, for this movie. I think he did. Look it up.
Yeah.
I was going to say, it just dawned on me when you're talking, and I won't cut in too much because it's your opinion, obviously, too. But I think I know what it is that's kind of getting me about this movie now, is that I feel like it's a mini-series jammed into a movie. So I feel like all the way throughout, I'm missing things that I need to know.
Sure. Yeah. I got it.
You just reminded me. This is like an episode of Sons of Anarchy, where it's bad people doing bad things, and also it has a lot of elements that I love about Godfather 3, the greatest of the Godfather movies, as we mentioned previously.
Yes.
Godfather 3. What's great about it is that you got the two movies. You see Sonny Corleone doing his thing, making his mistakes, and then Godfather 3 is where the chickens come home to roost. That's what this movie is. You don't get the two movies ahead of time, but you see that these are not good people.
Mm-hmm.
And
Sure.
as a result, the people around them, their lives fall apart and are ended and are disrupted, and all this terrible stuff happens to the people they love because of actions that they took. And granted, it's not a lesson that people need to learn, because it's pretty obvious. Don't do bad stuff, because if you do, then it's going to come back to bite you in the ass. But it's still it makes a fun crime drama. It kind of adds that little extra. The Scott Adkins movie we just saw,
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Legacy of Lies.
Legacy of Lies.
Yeah.
So there's an example of bad people doing bad things, but it's fun to watch. This is the other version of that. This is
Sure.
the same type of movie, same type of characters, but the movie's taking the characters, they're kind of holding their feet to the fire and making their characters pay for what they do. Where in movies of this type, normally you just watch it for fun and there's not much consequence, outside of what happens in the movie. This one, the characters are being punished for what they do, and the characters know they're being punished for what they do. And I don't know, it just seems like a more, I don't know, what's the word? Realistic, I guess. That's not the word I'm looking for. But my brain's rotting, so.
Brain's rotting. So Bruce Perky gave it 2 out of 5 stars. I don't know if you do the star system, Eric Holmes, but what would you give this?
I would give this a 6 out of 9.
A 6 out of 9.
Always.
A 6, if
No,
6 were 9. Let's just say.
I like to do the movies like it, don't like it, kind of okay. This one's I like it, but it's also the more I get away from watching it the first time, the more it's kind of certain aspects of the movie are kind of digging its claws at me, and a lot of David Ayer movies I've seen have done that.
Yeah.
When I watch Harsh Times, the first time I watched it, I'm like, that's fine. But the further I get away from it, it's like, no, that was a really good movie. Sabotage, except for the end, like the rest of Sabotage, it's like, yeah, that was pretty cool. But then, I get away from it, it just kind of digs in me. So his movies tend to do that anyway.
That's cool. Yeah.
This one was like, I'm watching it, I'm like, yeah, this is fine. But then the further I get away from it, I'm like, I think I love this movie.
Very cool. I think this is sort of this is not a spoiler, but this is just maybe a warning. If you are a huge fan of Shia LaBeouf, he is not the main character of the tax collector. The main character is Bobby Soto, plays David. And I think for me, this movie worked because just following the arc of David's character, where you see everything is, like you were saying, Godfather 3, everything's coming home to roost, seeing his life gradually fall apart and seeing him trying to get it back piece by piece, or you were talking about blood in, blood out, or body by body, going through bodies to get to that final body. I thought that was really interesting. And, when people ask me about my favorite Brian De Palma film and I say Raising Cain, I already know that Raising Cain is not Brian De Palma's best film. It's probably Casualties of War, or we could name a whole litany of better De Palma films. But Raising Cain, which one?
Blowout,
of course.
Blowout's good.
But the reason why Raising Cain is my personal favorite is because, like you were saying, Eric Holmes, that just watching Ayer stuff, each film becomes an extension of that person. So it's like you see Ayer's, you were talking about End of Watch or Sabotage, you see some of the riffs from his Harsh Times, you see some of those Ayer riffs from earlier things, and then you also appreciate the story that's here and now. So Raising Cain's my personal favorite is because it has a lot of my favorite De Palma riffs, and it's just my own personal just favorite movie. But I don't know if I'd recommend Raising Cain to a lot of people. And I say this with The Tax Collector. I absolutely love the movie, but I understand, of course, Bruce Perky, your review, I think a lot of people will be in your camp and not really like The Tax Collector. It's a very strong opinion type of movie. Yeah.
And granted, I'm not like a huge action guy. We talked about that before, but I can sometimes, some of them just catch me, like we talked about earlier, but sometimes they don't. And this just may not be my cup of tea. And I can totally get that. Just the same way that I like certain horror movies that I just know certain people are going to be like, that's terrible. I hate that movie, because that's not their thing, So I would say people who are already kind of in the camp are going to probably love it. It's probably their thing. So
Yeah, definitely my thing. Bruce, not your thing. Eric Holmes is going to start.
I would say the one thing that I did not like about this movie, and you'll know what I'm talking about, but I can't get into it too much because it's a spoiler. One of my favorite actors is in this movie, but kind of not in this movie.
Oh, I got you. That's not,
you
yeah, I got
what I'm
you.
talking about. It's like,
I got
yeah.
you.
Oh,
But I think there's a reason that we all know why that actor.
Yeah. And they did a great job. They Kaiser
Yeah.
Soze'd him. It's like they built this character up as this thing, and then when you see him, and when you see him and what he is, and then now I'm thinking of it. I love this movie even more.
Once again, man, that's why I could see this being like almost a series and really fleshing it out. And I feel like I probably would have bought in more if that had been the case, because I would have had so much more context. But I feel like kind of dropped you into it, and either you took it or you didn't,
Well, did either of you two watch Sons of Anarchy or?
I watched the whole series all the way through. But see, that would be a perfect example. If you came into one episode in the middle of that series, you'd be like, what the hell? And that's kind of what I feel like in this.
Okay. I get where you're
get
where you're stepping in. Yeah, I just
I get where you're stepping in.
I just kind of
I get where you're stepping in.
Yeah, by the time this movie ended, I definitely saw it as like a Sons of Anarchy kind of one-off, even though it wasn't. But I love the show Sons of Anarchy, so this is kind of more of that. And actually, I checked his IMDb. I don't think David Ayer did any Sons of Anarchy. Maybe he should have.
Maybe you should have. Yeah. Speaking of stepping into things, I think
this is a really great Sons of Anarchy episode.
Yeah, I think I drink too much of the David Ayer Kool-Aid. He is a weak spot for me, and I proudly will die on that David Ayer hill. I am excited for the Suicide Squad Ayer cut. I hope that gets released one of these days. That's Bruce, Suicide Squad Ayer cut? No.
If they come out with it, I'm sure it'll be good. But this goes back to and I'm wearing a Star Wars shirt, so hypocrisy right on the table. I get it, but David Ayer is such a good filmmaker. Whether you like his movies or not, like he has a certain voice and he has a certain style to him, and Suicide Squad was it was fine for a comic book movie. I hate to watch filmmakers like him go into comic book movies because they often never come out. And if they do stop making them, it's because the nerds didn't like their last movie and they don't get to make another movie for like another decade. Sam Raimi. Remember him?
Yeah.
Where'd he go? He made a Spider-Man. He made a Spider-Man 2. Everyone loved that. He made a Spider-Man 3. The nerds hated it. And then, luckily we got a Drag Me From Hell. But the way that the machine just chews up these filmmakers and spits them out.
Yeah.
And someone mentioned, I saw on Twitter, someone mentioned Jeremy Saulnier. It's like, would you ever do a comic book movie? And it's like, not for me. I'm like, thank God. We will have Jeremy Saulnier for as long as he's alive.
Okay, so that ends our review of it's so fun that when all three of us get to actually talk about a movie. The Tax Collector, out in theaters, digital on demand, August 7th. Bruce Perky, let's start with some of your recommendations for this week. What do you have?
All right. Well, this is the one that might get me blacked out right out of the gate. So I have to start with that one. First of all, I will bring up, it's directed by Frank Henenlotter. And if you know who Frank Henenlotter is, you may not, but if you might know his movies. He made Basket Case, he made Brain Damage, and he made Frankenhooker.
Yes, I know. I haven't seen any of those movies, but I've heard of these movies.
Peter Jackson? Wait, I get Basket Case, Brain Damage.
Frank Henenlotter.
Why am I thinking Peter Jackson?
No. You're not thinking of the right person.
No, Basket Case is a huge.
It's a different brain damage. You're thinking of. You're
Oh,
thinking
bad
of.
taste.
Yeah,
Bad
yeah.
taste. Never
So,
mind. I'm
and
dumb.
it is. This
Don't
is
listen to
actually
me.
a documentary from 2018. It's a documentary. It is partly narrated by Jello Biafra from the Dead Kennedys, and the reason is because Jello Biafra is a perfect person to narrate this, because he was in Dead Kennedys the first band to ever get charged for obscenity. Now, if you're not familiar with that, they got charged with obscenity for the album Frankenchrist. Now, if you buy Frankenchrist now, you do not get the H.R. Giger poster that was inside originally. The H.R. Giger poster that was inside caused them to go to court. This is the H.R. Giger poster, which I will now show you.
Oh.
And it is only available if you bought it. And it is called Penis Landscape.
That is very interesting there, Bruce.
That's nice.
Yeah,
that's when I get blacked out. So
okay.
Why do I bring all this up? This movie is called Boiled Angels. The Trial of Mike Diana. He is the only artist in American history, and probably world history, but it's definitely American history, the only artist to ever be convicted of obscenity charges. This movie is quite amazing. So Boiled Angels was the underground comic that he made. Now, if you're familiar, and what's really cool about this movie is it gets right into the history, right after it kind of introduces this guy. He was doing this in the 90s. He was doing this underground comic. Maybe he would circulate, I don't know, 200 copies of it to people. Not very many. They go back in time. They talk about EC Comics. If you're familiar with EC Comics, like Vault of Horror and Tales from the Crypt, all those things they tried to get those banned, and they really pretty much were able to get them pretty much censored, and they got rid of them almost totally. And then later on, you get R. Crumb and a lot of other famous artists in the 70s doing these really underground comics that are like really pushing the boundaries of taste with sex and drugs and all kinds of super crazy stuff. And if you've seen the Crumb documentary, you've kind of seen some of that. And this guy pushes it even further. And what happens is, and I'm not going to go into all of it because it's very interesting. And I would say, first of all, they show his comics. This is comics that the guy got convicted for. So go in with a very big warning that you may be highly offended by the comics that you'll see in this movie. But what happened was he's in Gainesville, Florida area. He was down in Florida. And I don't know if you remember, there was the Gainesville murders. There was a killer that killed a bunch of people at I think it was fraternity or sorority or whatever, and somehow this artist got pulled into that investigation, and he wasn't involved at all, but they saw his comics when they searched his house, and they went after him. They went after him for his comics because they thought he was a danger to society, and everyone hopped on board at that point. All the religious groups and all the different groups in America that wanted this guy shut down. And it goes to the story of what happened to him. And a lot of other comics or comic artists and underground artists from the era, including even like Neil Gaiman's in there at one point. All these people go into it to try to kind of basically defend him, even though a lot of them hate what he actually makes. And I don't even want to describe the things he makes because they're definitely out there. But it's a super interesting documentary. It's on Amazon Prime. If it sounds like something you can stomach, I would say check it out because it's a piece of history I knew nothing about. I thought it was really
Was it just a blind watch for you? You just wanted to, or you've always loved the director because of his prior films, like Basket Case and stuff?
It was one of those weird things where, you watch horror movies or whatever you watch on these different streaming services, and they started suggesting a bunch of things you think you might like. So if you've seen certain documentaries, they might say, you might like this documentary. And I just kind of had a weird little graphic to it. I'm like, what is this? Boiled Angels? What the heck is that? And then I saw the director, and that really intrigued me because I knew Frank Henenlotter. And the fact that he was doing a documentary recently after he did all these B movies, these exploitation movies back in the 80s and 90s, I was really surprised by that, and I wondered about it, and I watched a little of it, and it sucked me in.
So Boiled Angels, The Trial of Mike Diana,
Yeah.
currently on Amazon Prime Video. Eric Holmes, what you
I'm
got?
getting very angry right now.
Why are you getting very angry? Why?
Can I just say this thing? And this might anger some people, but when you have a group of people such as Catholics or any religion, and you push around pedophiles, you do not get to tell people that they do not get to see pictures of penises. You do not get to say that people cannot hear certain words. You don't have the moral authority to tell people what is and is not offensive when you push around priests that fuck kids in the butt.
That's
Sorry, I get
Okay.
really angry when the religious people try to take the high horse.
Well, let's
And we
just
cut
say
the,
that Mike Diana's
we can
art.
cut this out if we need to,
Yeah.
but
No.
that kind of hypocrisy just gets under my skin and makes me so angry.
You should probably watch this movie because Mike Diana's art goes hardcore into some of those areas in ways that I cannot even describe to you and will blow your mind.
It might make me punch a wall, but oh, restraint. I have not shown it thus far, but I will from here on out.
Well, maybe we should rewind it next week. We'll do a FYF rewind, right? FYF rewind, so you can tell us what you think of Boiled Angels, The Trial of Mike Diana.
I do love the title "Boiled Angels." Though.
Boiled
That's a
Angels.
great title.
So, other than punching the wall, Eric Holmes, what do you have? What pick do you have for us right now?
I'm gonna calm myself down a bit.
You're gonna calm yourself down a bit.
I'm gonna calm myself down a bit.
You know what, Eric? You're getting radioactive right now. You're getting radioactive.
I am calming down. The white light's coming.
Are they calming? Are they calming? The white light is calm. Oh, you turned it. White light better. Better.
Okay,
Folks,
we're good.
Just,
We're good.
Eric just turned it into white lights now from the green.
Rosamund Pike, for those of you who don't know, is a wonderful actress, and this wonderful actress played a wonderful person in history, Mary Curie. This is a movie directed by Marjane Satrapi. It's called Radioactive. It says 2019. I'm pretty sure it came out. Is it 2019 or I thought it came out now, but
didn't it just get released like a week ago or something, or 2 weeks ago?
I'm looking at the IMDb right now. It says 2019.
Okay,
so
2019, but yeah, it just came out recently. So it's a recent.
Yeah, maybe
release.
someone saw it in 2019. They're like, counts. I don't know, but this movie worried me at first, because I was if you don't know, Mary Curie, she's not the first woman to have won the Nobel Prize twice. She's the first person to have won the Nobel Prize twice. And that's thinking about it, that's really important because a lot of times women are trying to be the first woman to do a thing. And when a woman is able to be the first person to do a thing, I think it should be something that should be celebrated and pointed out. But this is a biopic about Mary Curie, who is a wonderful scientist, genius. And I was worried because it started off, it seemed like it was going to be a love story between her and Pierre Curie. Much like what was the Stephen Hawking one, Theory of Everything.
Mm-hmm.
Big fan of Stephen Hawking, and the Theory of Everything, I was hoping they would get into the science. They really didn't. It was like a typical biopic of him and his love life and I thought this was going the same way, and then it didn't. And then it got more into the science and what she had to go through to kind of stand out. And it's about not quite the perfect Mary Curie biopic I would like, but it's pretty damn good. And it goes into her personal life, does do that, but it also goes into the science of what she does. It goes in through the hardships of what she had to go through in order, because for her, it wasn't just about, I have this cool idea, I have this, I have these wonderful theories, and I have this wonderful science to show to everybody. She had to get around with, oh, you're a woman, so we can't take you too seriously. That's why she had Pierre Curie there, but getting a little too into the weeds there, but it was just a really good movie, and it had that perfect balance of biopic, but also the science, which she's famous for. And I don't know, I just really like this movie. I love this movie, and I thought it was really well done. And I was worried at first, but they corrected. It didn't quite go down the road I thought I was afraid it was going to go down. It went down a better road, and I think the movie's better for it.
Marjane Satrapi, and she has always been a critically acclaimed filmmaker. In 2007, she came out with Persepolis. That was a huge hit critically. And then she followed that up with Chicken with Plums. I'm sure you've seen both of them, or at least one of them, Bruce Perky.
Persepolis. I haven't seen Chicken with Plums, but Persepolis is really cool.
Really cool. And then in 2014, she directed the Gemma Arterton and Ryan Reynolds film The Voices, which I know our buddy Anderson Cowan loves. Everyone tells me The Voices is, when they always say, well, whether or not you like Ryan Reynolds or not, go check out The Voices.
It's a weird movie, man.
Voices is good and night and day different than this.
Yes. And different than Persepolis, way different. So that shows you that she definitely has some different styles that she can put out there. That's pretty kind of cool. I was interested in this movie, so it's good to hear. I'll have to go check that out for sure.
Yeah, and it does, the score for this really stands out, but it stands out in a good way because it's radioactive. So the scores almost sounds like something you would hear in Drive, but like not quite that, but like it's definitely a modern score, modern electronic score. But she discovers radioactivity, and so it kind of makes sense. I don't know, there's just a lot of really cool stuff going on in this movie.
Speaking of cool stuff, I have so that is now streaming on Amazon Prime Video, Radioactive. Okay, I have a little quick pick. I don't know if you guys are fans. Bruce Perky, Eric Holmes, do you love Liam Neeson? Are you both Liam Neeson fans?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I am a Liam Neeson. Who isn't a Liam Neeson fan? He is starring in a completely sort of a different movie. Comes out on digital VOD, drive-in, select theaters, Friday, August 7th. It is called Made in Italy. Now, what's interesting about this movie is it stars him and his son, Michal Richardson. Michal Richardson is the son of Liam and the late actress Natasha Richardson, and it centers on a London artist named Robert, played by Liam Neeson. He goes to Italy with his estranged son, Jack, played by Michal Richardson, and they go to Tuscany to sell the villa, the home of Robert's late wife. Okay? Now, Jack needs the money from the house so he can actually keep the gallery. He can buy this gallery that he's been running for years with his ex-wife, but he really wants to buy the gallery. They want to sell their home in Tuscany. So when you think of Tuscany, father and son relationship, they're going to sell a home. It seems really kind of they're an estranged father and son. They're going to get they're going to have healing moments. They may want to sell the house or not. This sounds like a very predictable story. It's written and directed by James Darcy, and he's an actor. You've seen him in a bunch of movies. Yeah.
James Darcy was in, was he in Hannibal? Am I thinking of the right person?
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was he wasn't
he was the younger guy in there, right?
The other guy.
Yeah.
No, I don't know if he's in Hannibal. He was Jarvis in the Agent Carter. He was also in Cloud Atlas. You've seen him, Master and Commander. You've seen him a lot. Okay. I don't know if he's in.
If you haven't seen him in Hannibal, see him in Hannibal. That show is awesome.
Okay, see him in Hannibal. I don't know. I'm thinking maybe it might not. Oh, okay, maybe. So Hannibal's a good show no matter what, right?
Oh, it's a fantastic show.
It's a fantastic show. But
yes,
it's written and directed by James Darcy, and I really loved the father and son dynamic because the movie, it centers on how both of them are grieving for the loss of the most important woman in their respective lives, and it really mirrors the real life relationship of Neeson and his son. So that's very resonant, very emotional The director, James Darcy, he lost his own father when he was only 6. So this movie really, it's not a rom-com. It's not a coming-of-age movie about the beauties of Tuscany. It's really more of a movie about how does one get over or continue to survive via the grieving process when a loved one, someone you love has passed away years ago, but you still continue to, it still affects you on a daily basis. So it's a very interesting movie. I ended up really enjoying Made in Italy. It's a good feature directing debut from James Darcy. And yeah. So Made in Italy, Liam Neeson, Michal Richardson, he comes from a great acting stock. Obviously, Natasha Richardson and Liam Neeson being the parents. That's a lot of pressure on him, but he does a pretty fine job as essentially he's a lead actor in this movie. And Liam, it's great to see Liam Neeson in just a purely dramatic role. And there's a lot of emotional moments in this movie.
Yeah, I thought you were going to say it had a twist and something crazy was going to happen. It was going to come out this action flick. By the way, I'll correct myself. Hugh Dancy is who I was thinking of. So you are correct.
Yeah,
I was wrong.
Hugh Dancy, yeah.
Son of a bitch.
Yeah,
I'm a dumbass.
Me too.
No worries. James Darcy. James Darcy is the actor turned filmmaker. And then for our Find Your Film extra audio, I got to find out a way on findyourscene.com, our own website. I haven't done any work. I'm trying to we're doing a lot of work on this podcast. I definitely want to do something with that website, but I have extra audio with James Darcy talking about working with filmmaker Peter Weir on Master and Commander. So we have some of that
Peter
audio
Weir
exclusively to our podcast community. Yeah, I love Peter Weir too. Who knows? Maybe
Yeah.
Peter Weir might be one of our Find Your Film director spotlights in the coming weeks. Who knows?
Yeah, there's some really good choices in that lineup.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite Peter Weir, Eric Holmes? Witness, The Mosquito
Well,
Coast.
first of all,
Green Card.
apologies to Huge Dancy and James Darcy.
Dancy and Darcy together again.
It's like the Dermot Mulroney and the
Dylan McDermott.
Dylan McDermott.
And then Bill Pullman. And Bill Pullman
Paxton.
And who else? Yeah, and Bill Paxton.
And Paul Derman.
Paul Derman, my favorite baseball movie.
So that is my pick. Made in Italy.
And Peter Weir, he did the Master and Commander.
Yes, yeah, he did Master. Did you like
that? Was a movie that I saw the first time because everyone was talking like I saw the movie and I was like, I hate this movie. And I couldn't get through it. And everyone was like I could not find one person that could talk shit about Master and Commander. I'm like, I don't get it. I saw the movie. I almost fell asleep like 13 times trying to watch this thing.
Sure.
And then I went back and watched it. I'm like, oh yeah, I was wrong. You ever get that? Like you see a movie once and you're like, I hate this thing. And then for whatever reason you watch it again. I'm like, oh yeah, okay. I was way off.
Did he do Fearless? Was that him too?
Yeah, he did. I did the press junket for Fearless.
Fearless is a really cool and untalked about movie a lot of times. I think that's a weird one for sure.
Well,
good one.
To your point, Bruce, Made in Italy is about grief and moving on. Eric Holmes, you need to see Fearless because a big part of Fearless deals with the theme of how does one either survivor's guilt or grief over a tragedy. That's the ending of Fearless is.
Fearless is a fascinating and unusual movie.
Definitely.
He did Green Card.
He did Green Card.
That was a movie I remember when that came out. That was like a big deal for like a week or two. Sure. And we talked about Baby Secrets of the Lost Legend.
Yep.
Green Card was one of those movies that I remember when it came out. I was like, I should probably watch that, but I never did.
Yeah.
The Poet Society's good. Witness is good. Yeah, Peter Weir's got a bunch of good ones.
Picnic at Hanging Rock.
Yeah.
The Last Wave.
Richard Chamberlain.
Yeah. Dude, we should do a deep dive on Peter Weir.
Definitely deep dive on Peter Weir.
Yeah.
Deep dive in The Last Wave. Now, Bruce Berkey, what else do you got?
Well, I've got a movie that's been getting a lot of buzz again because now it's available on Hulu. Earlier in the year, it was getting a little bit of buzz, but I feel like a lot of the people in our universe, our cinematic universe, and our Find Your Film universe have been talking about this movie. So I went and checked it out, and that is the movie The Assistant.
Right.
And this is a really, really interesting movie. It's directed by Kitty Green. And she's done a few things. She did casting John Bonet, and she did a documentary called Ukraine is Not a Brothel. I've seen neither of those movies, but
you know what? Actually, it is. So that's the sequel to it.
what is that?
You said Ukraine is not a brothel, and the sequel is
Actually, it is.
It is.
Well, maybe.
Maybe.
So this movie is really interesting. For those who don't know, the main actress in this is Julia Garner, and she's one of those people that you are going to see more and more and more. She's one of those people that almost everyone's seen and go like, I've seen her in things. She's in Ozark.
Have you guys seen Ozark yet?
I've seen the first 2 seasons. I haven't seen the third season. She's in The Americans. She's been in a bunch of stuff, and she's one of those actresses. When you see her, she's a younger actress. She's very characteristic, curly blonde hair, like really curly blonde hair. And when you see her, you'll remember her. But her acting chops are really good, and I think she's going to start getting more and more and more acclaim in roles. This movie is super subtle. So, for those of you who don't know, it's basically a day in the life of a Hollywood assistant. And it starts from the morning when she gets up, it's still dark, she's walking into the office and she's turning on the lights, and it follows her through her day. Now, the obvious thing that people talk about with this movie is that the unnamed boss, the unnamed executive, is very similar to another person who's been in the news quite a bit lately, Mr. Weinstein. So, never stated. You never see her boss in this movie. You only see his office. You hear him off screen. And what's really interesting about this movie, and this is the kind of movie that's definitely not for everybody, because it's not action packed. It's not full of big, in your face emotional moments that it could have in this kind of movie. It's all about the little touches around the corners of her day and seeing how it grinds the person down, and how there's all of these unspoken little things that are happening. Little things like this, like you see her come in the morning, she's walking around, she's setting up the coffee maker, she's putting out the paper, she's doing all the stuff that you do to set up for the people coming in. And at one point, she just gets on her knees in his office and she cleans his couch. She scrubs his couch off. They don't say anything about it, but you're like, and then later on, some characters say, oh, no, don't sit on the couch. And you're just like, oh. Or like right at the very beginning, she finds an earring on the floor. And all these little things add up. So basically, if there is a climactic moment in this movie, there's a point where she goes and sees an HR person. And I'm not going to say what happens or how it goes down, but this movie is very, very, very interesting. I love the way it kind of answers the question in a super subtle way of, well, how could someone let this happen? How does this environment exist? How does a person get away with this? How does someone help somebody like this? And it just kind of answers all those questions, and it's all about, how to describe this. One thing people mentioned about Rosemary's Baby, I know this is a weird connection, but when you watch Rosemary's Baby, they talk about how in that movie, Polanski will shoot shots from one room, and you'll see down a hallway and a doorway, and the people in the other room and down that hallway are talking just off screen. Like you won't see them. You'll just see the doorway. And this movie is all about that. It's about people walking by and hearing part of a conversation. It's about overhearing part of a conversation over the phone that you can't quite make out, but you get just enough words. It's seeing, an email sent to her. All these kind of things add up to this super grinding down environment where you just see kind of the way a person like her is chewed up and spit out by this system. Super good.
Yeah,
it's good.
And
it's not long. It's like an hour and a half.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's unnerving, right? It's an unnerving drama. Or would you even call it a thriller, maybe even?
No, it's not a thriller at all. No.
More of an unnerving drama. It just seems... Oh.
Yeah, it's just kind of like a slice of life that you may never get in another way. It seems like whoever wrote this has lived it. It seemed just way too knowing to not be involved with somebody who's actually kind of been in that environment. So
okay, so I'm sorry, you said, where did you see The Assistant? Where is it streaming?
It's on Hulu. You can get it on Hulu right now.
Mm-hmm. My fault. Okay, so The Assistant, starring Julia Garner from Ozark.
hmm
And yeah,
A lot of people are
very
talking about her being in the front running this year because it's so weird, but being in the mention for Best Actress, it's that
wow,
good. It's that good.
wow, that is so cool. Eric Holmes, what else? What other unique pick do you
Um,
have?
Rosamund Pike's definitely in the running as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, for
But
radioactive, yeah.
yeah, the assistant, I didn't know what that is until he started describing it. And then did Andrew or Movie Bears cover that?
I know that William Lindis has talked about it, but not on their show. He really liked it, and Andrew talked about it on his most recent episode of
Okay.
Andrew Watches
Yeah,
Movies.
as soon as you started, because I remember someone talking about that, like it seems slow, but it kind of, does the what we've talked about earlier, where you
Yeah.
do the work ahead of time, that so it'll pay off at the end.
Yeah, it's
It
one of those
seems
movies like if you watch, you're like always constantly watching the edges and listening to the corners. Like I literally turn on my captions and subtitles so I could hear what was coming through on the phone on the other side. So you could hear when she's getting berated and you couldn't quite make it out. You could see all the words that are being said to her by this unspoken person.
yeah.
Just watching how she has to field like a call from the wife, and it's so it's good.
Okay, cool. Now, Eric Holmes, you got something. What else you got on the docket?
I got two of them. They're both shorts. Well, one's actually a short. One kind of became a short because some of it was lost. But I got My Best Friend's Birthday, 1987 movie, written and directed by Quentin Tarantino. And we also have 1993 Cigarettes and Coffee, written and directed by Paul Thomas Anderson. And I was just, I can't remember because I remember seeing bits of My Best Friend's Wedding, but I never watched the whole thing. And you can find both these on YouTube. Um,
Okay.
and they're both pretty low quality. I think My Best Friend's Birthday is probably shot on 16 millimeter, maybe even 8 millimeter. It looks really blurry. And Cigarettes and Coffee, I think, was ripped off of a VHS tape, the version I saw. But it's still fun to watch, kind of, anytime you can watch a really great filmmaker's work, like the earliest version of it. With Tarantino, you see a lot of the shots shots and angles and certain Tarantinoisms that he would have in his directing in later movies, and eventually get better at and hone in later movies. And there's also a lot of certain dialogue that you notice, that dialogue and characters and little even Easter eggs that it seems that he's pulled from this movie. There's a bunch of crossover with True Romance, Pulp Fiction, like even Inglourious Basterds. I think they bring up Aldo Rain at one point.
Mm-hmm.
And it's definitely not his best, but you get to kind of see the artist kind of starting to edge its way into something. As far as direction, probably not great, but the writing on it is you can kind of see where his writing's not as good as it was in Reservoir Dogs going forward, but you can see where it's kind of starting to get there. Cigarettes and Coffee, on the other hand, is very, 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 very well directed. Probably not well written, dialogue wise. It's not bad, but the way all the characters in this short kind of come together, and the transitions he uses to connect all the characters that are otherwise unconnected is dude, this is a great first feature. Like, and it's like
Really?
it's a half hour short, but like you just see the way they do all these transitions and connect all these characters together, and which he'll do later on in Magnolia. I think he did it better in this one. He
Wow.
right out of the gate, he just nailed it.
How much
And then
before Hard 8 was this made? Do you know how many years before Hard 8?
This was made in 1993, so I don't know when Hard 8 came out. Well, Philip Baker Hall's in it, and the wormy guy from RoboCop, Miguel Ferrer,
Oh yeah.
Yes.
and Kirk Baltz. So it's kind of similar setup to the beginning of Hard 8, but the story's different. So Kirk Baltz, he would be the guy that gets his ear cut off in Reservoir Dogs.
Oh right.
He's playing the John C. Reilly character in Hard 8. And
Hard
then
8 was
Philip
96. 96.
Baker, okay, so 3 years. There you go. But this is like a similar setup, but different story. So I say he's playing the John C. Reilly character, not really the John C. Reilly character, but yeah, Kirk Baltz is really good in everyone's really good in this. Philip Baker Hall, you don't need me to tell you, he's great and everything.
Yeah.
But I was watching this and I started getting my film nerd brain started itching. I was like, what would a Paul Thomas Anderson movie look like if Quentin Tarantino wrote it, or even flip it around? Like it just started because they're both really strong debuts, but for like different reasons. And I would say if you're a fan of Tarantino or Paul Thomas Anderson, as I imagine a lot of us are, and you haven't for some reason haven't hit these up, they're both on YouTube. Find them out, and they're really wonderful to watch and or listen to.
Would you recommend viewers check out Cigarettes and Coffee and then just go right into Hard 8 or Sydney, whatever it's called? Would that be a nice transition? You're talking about transitions.
I think no. I would watch
Okay.
Hard 8 first and then this. Only because there's a certain thing, like they have certain similarities. This all takes place inside of a diner, which is the opening scene of Hard 8. This is better, I think. This is better than Hard 8.
Wow.
The quality, like, it was dubbed off of VHS tape, so you can't expect much from quality. But like, it's hard to if we could somehow develop a technology to storyboard on this podcast, and I can show you exactly what they're because like the characters are talking, you see a character and the camera like kind of trails away from the characters that are talking because there's someone walking in the background, and then he stops walking and the camera stops on the people that's in front of him now, but the guy keeps walking, and then the people that are talking about the person that was walking behind them, but they don't know they're talking about that person yet. Like it's got a bunch of little
okay.
It's got a bunch of little things. You're not going to pick up on everything right away.
That is very cool.
But then as the story goes along, you're like, oh, wait a second, that thing happened. And it's fantastic. I can't believe it took me this long to watch it.
Okay, well, you saw it on YouTube. I wonder if there are maybe some kind of criterion with PTA and there's an enhanced version of it, or I don't know.
It might be on like the Hard 8 DVD or Boogie Nights, maybe. I don't know. And if it's on there, hopefully it's a better, clearer version of it.
How long is the short? How long?
It's like 30 minutes, 20 minutes, something like that. It's really short, but man, it's good.
I'm on IMDb. It says specifically 24 minutes specifically.
Okay.
So
there you go.
I definitely want to check it out. Thank you for
too.
that. And what is The Wedding with Tarantino? What's the name of that?
My Best Friend's Birthday. Now,
My Best Friend's Birthday.
Yeah. With that one, this one's kind of of the two, I like this one the least, but that's not entirely fair because again, the version that's on YouTube is incomplete, and it shows. You can see certain edits are kind of wonky, almost as if there was supposed to be something there, and it's not. Have you seen The Snowman?
Oh gosh,
yes, of course. We're talking about Snowman.
You know how like The Snowman, like you watch it and it's like this movie's broken.
Yeah,
and there's
this movie's a masterpiece. I consider it close to a masterpiece.
No, Snowman is no masterpiece. It's straight up broken. They did in the Snowman's case, they weren't able to shoot everything they wanted to shoot, so they kind of had to Frankenstein together a movie, which is why it's not great. This one's a little different in that I could be wrong. I have been already once in this with you, Dancy, and
Me too.
I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure this was shot, but not all the footage is available. Or
Gotcha.
they shot so much and maybe ran out of money and couldn't shoot the rest. So there's no ending to the movie. It just kind of shuts off. But it still what Tarantino is so good at is like building character and dialogue, and so he's able to kind of put you in a kind of put you amongst friends, or kind of put you amongst people you don't mind hanging around with or talking to or listening to, and it's really fun, but it's also very it's very broken in a lot of parts, I think, because certain footage is missing, and this is just kind of what they put together with what they had, or maybe it just got abandoned and they ran out of money. I have no idea but what is there is definitely worth watching, and definitely someone on one of the comments mentioned Quentin Tarantino's Clerks, and that's not far off. That kind of makes
Wow.
sense.
That's cool. All right. That's good shorts. I was completely clueless about the Quentin Tarantino one. Absolutely clueless about that. But I've been meaning to see Cigarettes and Coffee all those years, especially when Hard Eight came out. Bruce Berkey, what is your film? What's the next one for you?
My last one here is Bluebird in My Heart.
Well,
2018.
thank you, Bruce. That's so sweet of you.
Yes, you're welcome.
Yeah, are you thinking of me with the bluebird in your heart, or are you thinking of Mr.
You
Eric
are.
Holmes? Which
Well, one's a bluebird, one's a hummingbird. I don't know.
okay.
I haven't decided yet.
Yeah, House of Hummingbird. I love that movie, by the way. House of
I want to see that
Hummingbird.
movie so
That's
bad.
an amazing House of Hummingbird out on Blu-ray this week. I did not get that Blu-ray, so this is not a sponsored post. But House of Hummingbird from Well Go USA. We love that movie. We love Well Go USA, right?
I really want to see that movie badly.
Yeah.
That will definitely get talked about whenever I get a chance to see it. Bluebird in My Heart from 2018. This is on Shudder. It's a French movie, but it's about half English and half in French, so it isn't like all subtitles. It is not horror at all. As I was watching it, I was like, okay, what the heck is Bluebird in My Heart? So I had to go look that up. That is, I think, based on a Charles Bukowski poem, because he talks about a bluebird in his heart that wants to get out, and he's too tough for him. So it's kind of one of the Bukowski images, I guess, that they used. It's directed by Jeremy Guez. I don't know how to say it. Guez.
Okay.
Has three main characters. The main character is Danny, and he basically just got out of prison. And wherever they're at, it doesn't even talk about exactly where they're at, but wherever they're at, instead of like a kind of a halfway house, there's this kind of like low down, bad area of town hotel. It looks like the kind of hotel that people can kind of stay like long term. And it shows him going in there, getting introduced to the woman who runs the hotel. And then the person who drops him off, puts the ankle bracelet on him, says, you got to be back here at 7:00 at night. If you're not here, it's going to set off the thing. If anything changes, you get a job, let us know. Otherwise, we're sending you back to jail. And that's it. And he's kind of seems like a big, tough, gruff guy. And you can tell he's just kind of trying to stay on the straight and narrow. You don't even know what he did. You just know he was in jail and he's trying to work it out back in the real world again. Very quickly, and that's played by Adam Mueller, and he's been in a bunch of things. I was looking him up. He was in Land of Mine, or what is it? Land of Mines, that one, Atomic Blonde. He's been in a bunch of stuff. But I think he probably has mostly played tough guy parts, not main roles. And then the main woman who runs the hotel is played by Lubna Azabal. Her name is Nadia. And she was in Incendies, if you ever saw Incendies. I was like watching this movie, I was like, where do I recognize her from? And she has a young daughter, and you don't know the exact age of the daughter. Daughter's like maybe 16 or so. Clara, played by Lola Lalande. And the whole idea is that you immediately see that the daughter is kind of on the edge. Like she could go either way. You can tell she's living kind of this rough area. She's a little too friendly with bad folks in the area, to joke them into getting some drugs. And she's not a bad kid, but you can see that she is kind of toying with the edges of kind of a dangerous world, like maybe kind of a little bit over her head as far as that goes. And then there's the subplot is that the mother and the daughter, the dad from that side of the marriage, he is just been in prison himself, but when he's getting out, he's already told the mom that he's not coming back. He met somebody who was in prison, he's not coming back. So that's kind of your dramatic setting. And what really works in this movie, I think, is that it really follows the Danny character, and you just kind of are constantly watching him and it's not like an original story, but it's done in a really clean, pure way where he's trying to keep his head down, he's trying not to get into trouble, he's trying not to be whatever that guy was he was before, and slowly events start pecking away at him, and it's just a matter of time before things are going to go sideways in some way. And you see him get a job and all the things that happen, and it's just a really interesting character study on him. There is, and I've been talking to Andrew Martin a little bit on the side because he watched this movie. I think he's going to talk about it too, so it'll be interesting to see his take. There is a scene about a third to halfway through this movie that is pretty harsh and a little questionable. And you can understand as a filmmaking technique, it is important because it really shows you a couple character moments, and it really sets the stakes for the rest of the movie. But it also is very, I have to be vague because I don't want to, it's a pretty, spoilery kind of thing to talk about, but it definitely, as a viewer, it's uneasy to watch. So you're kind of watching it and going like, did the filmmaker have to do that exactly the way they did it? It's effective, but yeah, there's a little question.
Does it detract from your overall experience for the movie? Did it notch it down?
I don't think so. I mean, I think it really does what it's intending to do. I just think it's one of those things. There's certain things in movies where you kind of ethically go like, okay, did the filmmaker have to do it in that way to get the same point across? So I think it's more of an ethical filmmaking question than it is an effectiveness question. It's effective. It works. And the rest of the movie hinges on it. So I understand why it's there, but there's some questions about it. And I'll be curious to see what Andrew says too, because we both know we're talking about the same thing, but we haven't discussed it.
Very cool.
I would say if you're into slow burn crime dramas with a little more meat on the bones, it's not just a straight up actioner. And when the violence happens, it's super in your face, and it's super explosive, and it actually has meaning. So this is not a, hey, let's just have fun kind of action movie like a, VFW is just fun, kind of crazy action. This is like when some action or violence happens in this movie, it hits you. It's got a point to it. So
a Bluebird in My Heart, currently streaming on Shudder.
Yep.
It has a very strong recommendation from Bruce Perky.
Yeah, I would, and once again, I would say with caution. This won't be for everybody's cup of tea. It's not horror though. It's not horror at all. But it's very, if you want to say gritty crime, very gritty crime drama. So if you can go down those roads, you're fine. But if you want something a little more light, like just more fun action, it's not that. So
okay. Before we wrap up our episode, Eric Holmes, do you have one final pick for us? One final explosive pick?
I do not. I went through them. I put the 2 in 1. I will say though, in my best friend's birthday, there is a scene where Quentin Tarantino is praising De Palma and Dressed to Kill. So
nice.
Wow, that is very cool.
I did forget to throw that out there. But yes, I squeezed the 2 together. So
yes, I just wanted to actually mention before we go that I just received an email this morning from a publicist, and it says, horrifying thriller Amulet arrives on DVD and on demand October 20th. The reason why I'm saying this is it hit today, and I am still, Eric, earlier in this podcast, you were getting a little bit beside yourself over a certain subject. I am a little bit beside myself that Amulet has not caught on with seemingly a larger audience. So I feel very bad about it. Bruce, do you think it might get a second life on demand and DVD? Hopefully, maybe.
I feel like it will. I think that horror fans will find this movie. I think once the negative or positive buzz kind of just fades away and people just kind of rediscover it, I think it'll get caught.
I also think that that and because Relic seems to be getting some buzz. Relic's getting the buzz that
Yeah.
Amulet is not,
Yeah.
and I think they're similar enough that Amulet's going to catch up eventually.
Yeah.
That is a good point, Eric Holmes. Very good point. It's so funny for someone in our community commented to me. He basically said, Amulet. Wait, the rental, that thriller directed by Dave Franco. He said the rental is greater than Amulet. By the way, truth to tell, I really did not like The Rental. I don't know if either of you guys have seen The Rental, did not like it, but he wanted to point out to me that he thought it was way better than Amulet. And I just replied, I go, to each his or her own. And, I'm sorry you had to go see this movie. And he said, well, in all honesty, my wife actually liked it Amulet way more than The Rental. And when she found out that I didn't like it as much as The Rental, she just called me a sexist pig. So, I mean, because of the undertones of the movie, of course.
Right.
I should also mention with Relic and Amulet, and even I haven't seen The Rental, but I'll throw that in there regardless. It's not a contest.
Yeah.
You can like all of them. You can like one of them. You can like two of them.
It's not a contest, guys. Really? Not a contest?
No.
That's why you guys are much more elevated than me. That's why.
The weird thing about movies is that sometimes more than one are good.
Exactly. At the same time. Oh my God.
It's strange how that works, but it does.
Yes. All right. We'll be back, folks, for next week. We're going to do our weekly movie recommendations. Also next week, us three, we're going to double dip. It'll be a lot of work for us because we're going to do another podcast when we're spotlighting the works of Dario Argento and Bava.
Yes.
Mario
you
Bava?
got it.
Is that his name?
Mario Bava. You should know that name.
I should know that name. And
Yes.
very quickly, to tease a little bit more, why was that your choice for our next filmmaker spotlight, Bruce Perky, for Find Your Film? Why did you want those two?
Partly because you have to watch Suspiria. That's part of the reason. Mm-hmm. Partly because, especially Bava, if you want to see two filmmakers that have probably influenced horror more in the 80s and 90s, we probably can't find two directors that are much more influential that don't necessarily get as much buzz in everyday talk. And I mean, Bava, you don't have hardly any of the slasher movies the same way they are in the 80s if you don't have Bava. So
okay, cool.
On top of that, I look forward to because Greg, you haven't seen a lot of Giallo movies.
Yep.
What'd you call me?
The when you discover these, just knowing how much you love Brian De Palma.
Yes.
Oh.
This I can see it. This is going to be your favorite genre of movie, and you have no idea.
Oh, that's amazing.
I could completely see you getting into these and be like, where have these been all my life? And just like, just bathing in a tub full of Giallo movies. Just
rewatching. I just rewatched, and we'll talk about it in more detail. I know we don't want to get into it now, but I just rewatched Blood and Black Lace, which once again, the story, it's fairly dated as far as the story and the acting, all that stuff. It's the 1960s, but the look of that movie, oh my God, you just can't imagine until you see it. I just know if you see it and you look at something like De Palma in the 70s and the 80s, right, Eric?
Yeah.
So unbelievable.
That's why I'm so excited. Like it's like someone's birthday or Christmas.
Yep.
And you got them the perfect present.
Well,
and you're just waiting. It's like, oh, I can't wait for them to know, but they're gonna love this so much. I can't wait for them to open. It's like me watching you about to dig into Giallo, and it's like, oh God, Greg's gonna love this so much. This is gonna be so good. Or maybe you'll hate it. Who knows?
Yeah,
maybe you'll hate it.
No, but we did talk last week about with the Nicholas Roeg film "Don't Look Now," and I don't obviously that's not Giallo, but it has some splashes of it, right? In it,
I would say it is.
Okay.
It's very entry level, I guess,
Okay.
as far as most giallos go, but that's pretty good representation of what to expect from it.
Yeah.
Although giallos get a little more weird.
Yeah, it's
and
toned down.
especially,
It's toned down giallo.
and
Toned down
especially with
giallo.
actually with Mario Bava and Argento,
Yeah.
they're also a lot more colorful than that, because
Way
that
more
Don't Look
colorful.
Now is like very muted.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. All right, well, that wraps it up. Final plugs, folks. Please rate, review, subscribe, find your film, along with our weekly movie reviews and recommendations. You'll also get hopefully right now, once every couple of weeks, we're going to spotlight these filmmakers, and hopefully we'll do deep dives of filmmakers that you love to listen to or want to learn about. On top of that, since part of my job, other than being a nanny to my lovely niece, Claire, who made an entrance last week, that was really nice to hear from Claire last week. But other than being a nanny, I also interview actors and filmmakers, and a lot of those interviews will be housed in the Find Your Film podcast, especially if you are an aspiring artist, writer, director. I am going to put a lot of these filmmaking insights into our podcast as well. So there's going to be a lot of stuff that we are. Bruce Perky, his YouTube channel is Rusto Meyer, Rustomire. I will have links. Bruce, can you just very quickly tell listeners about your channel? What do you have there? What can they find?
Well, I've got generally at least a couple interviews a week. I just did, for example, well, not a couple interviews. I do like an interview a week usually, and at least 2 or 3 reviews a week of movies. Or like today, I did an unboxing of a special edition of a DVD.
Midsommar, you just did.
Yeah.
I saw that. The Midsommar, folks.
Yep. So it's just all kinds of movie stuff on there. There's a few little family things too, but just lots of movie stuff. And every week you'll have more content. So.
Eric Holmes, how was Bruce Perky's interview with the Twilight Zone guy? Dawidziak, is that how you pronounce his name? How was it?
Mark
2 hours.
Dawidziak?
That was a 2-hour interview. I've never done that.
I wish it was 2 hours.
How long was it?
I wish that was 6 hours.
How long was Bruce Perky's interview with Dawidziak? Am I pronouncing
it? Was just under 2 hours. It was just under 2 hours. Yeah, Mark Dawidziak. It was just under 2 hours, but dude, that was fantastic.
Eric Holmes,
if you're watching this, go on Rusto Meyer on YouTube and watch that interview, because it is fantastic. That dude, I could listen to that guy talk forever.
And Mark Dawidziak too. I can listen to Bruce Perky talk forever. You know what? Here's the thing. I've been interviewing people since 1991, Eric Holmes, and Bruce Perky just freaking trumped me with a close to 2-hour talk with Mark Dawidziak. I've never talked to anybody in this life for almost 2 hours. And
yes, but you have Greg has an interview with one Scott Adkins and the director of Legacy of Lies, and you were able to make a wonderful interview.
Oh, thank you so much.
Down to
that's
just it. Bruce gets the longer interviews. You have to compress yours down to like a 5-minute thing. Which, quite honestly, if I'm the actor or director talking to you, I'm like, oh, I get to talk to Greg. I'm sorry, 5 minutes is not enough.
Yes.
You get me with Greg.
I wish women said that.
You get me with Greg when he's got 2 hours, and I will talk to Greg.
All right, guys. I love you, Bruce Perky, Eric Holmes. Eric Holmes has nothing to promote. I always try to tell him to link something, but here's the thing. Out of all 3 of us, there's people watching the YouTube. He has now the red lighting on. I don't know what that signifies. Maybe love, or maybe he has 2 horns. I don't know what that is. But he's also an up and coming filmmaker. He's a writer. I've read his script. Bruce has read his script. We both love it. It's a very self-contained, I'm not going to say much about it, thriller. Has a lot of really interesting themes. It tackles a lot of interesting themes in this movie, especially little teaser. I'm Catholic, so I really appreciated what was going on in this story. That's all I'm going to say about that. So find your film. We will be back next week. And Bruce, do you have a sign off?
See you all soon.